GMB's St. George's flag news leaves viewers raging, Britain has gone mad. Good Morning Britain viewers have been left infuriated over a segment about the St. George flag after a council removed them all. Good Morning Britain viewers were left furious after a segment relating to the removal of the St. George flag. Jonathan Swain appeared from Derby on Monday, September 29th, as he reported to Susanna Reid and Ed Balls that Derby City Council are the latest to order the removal of the flags in the area. He said, like many towns, cities and villages around the country, they have been proudly displaying the St. George's Cross and the Union Jack on lampposts around the city, also on roundabouts, bridges and people's homes. It started off as a grassroots campaign for people to feel pride in Britain and in England. But for some, it's a response to those small boats crossing the channel. However, he explained that today, they have been ordered to remove all flags from the area. He said it was coincidental that it is happening on the same day that new plans are set to be announced. At the Labour Party conference, it is expected the Home Secretary will announce that foreigners wanting to live and work in the UK will have to learn to speak English, have a clean criminal record and not claim benefits. Jonathan finished with, so the government today are talking about securing our borders. They're talking about patriotic renewal on a day where the flags are coming down in Derby. The plan for the removal sparked fury, as one user wrote, "What's the issue? Displaying your country flag is a proud thing." Another wrote, "Absolutely ridiculous. This country has gone." A third fumed, "Derby Council bravely tackles flags. Meanwhile, poverty, housing and services fall apart. Get your priorities right, FGS." Derby City Council are not the only ones to start the removal of the flags, with South Gloucestershire Council also a recent group to confirm they will be taking down the flags. However, they stated it was due to hazards and obscure CCTV, road signs and compromising public safety. Derby had also issued a statement which said, as part of our statutory responsibility to keep public spaces safe and well maintained, we will be required to remove items that have not obtained the standard permissions. We fully support and welcome those who choose to fly these flags on their own property. It started, as so many modern outrages do, with a flag. Not a policy announcement, not a scandal in Parliament, not even a football defeat. A flag, white with a red cross, fluttering innocently on a morning television screen, managed to set off a national row. When Good Morning Britain, GMB, raised the subject of the St. George's flag in one of their fiery breakfast debates, viewers across the country were instantly divided. Within minutes, social media timelines were overflowing with anger, sarcasm, and disbelief. The cry that echoed most often, Britain has gone mad. The flag that divides. For centuries, the St. George's flag has been England's symbol. You see it painted on shields in medieval manuscripts, waved at Wembley on football days, and hanging from pubs during summer tournaments. It's a flag that carries history, but also controversy. To some, it's pride in heritage. To others, it has been misused by extremists and carries darker undertones. On GMB, the presenters sparked a storm when they debated whether the flag should be displayed on public buildings, schools, or even on people's cars during major sporting events. What was meant to be a spirited breakfast chat quickly turned into what viewers branded an attack on tradition. Susanna Reid's fiery challenge. As the debate heated up, co-host Susanna Reid challenged a guest who argued that the flag made certain communities uncomfortable. Her sharp questioning was meant to open up a nuanced conversation, but instead it struck a raw nerve. Viewers didn't want nuance. They wanted certainty. They wanted to know, was the St. George's flag under attack, or not? Reid pressed, are we really saying that a national symbol, flown for hundreds of years, should now be hidden away because it offends a minority? That was enough to set social media ablaze. Twitter explodes. The hashtag #StGeorge flag trended before the show had even ended. One user fumed. If we can't fly our own flag in our own country, then what's the point? Britain has gone mad. Another wrote, first it's statues, now it's flags. What next? Changing the name of England itself. Others mocked the outrage, suggesting that the debate was exaggerated for TV drama. A witty tweet read, breaking, flag waves in the wind. Britain collapses. Yet beneath the jokes, there was real frustration. People felt their national identity was being questioned, reduced to a morning show effect. Part of GMB's success has always been its ability to tap into the nation's mood. Breakfast television is where Britain argues before work, over coffee, toast, and news clips. A debate about flags at 7:45 a.m. may sound trivial, but it cuts deep into the questions of belonging, tradition, and change that run through the country. It also reminded people of past flare-ups, when councils banned Christmas lights for sensitivity, when nativity plays were altered, when statues were removed. The St. George's flag debate slotted neatly into this ongoing narrative of a nation asking itself who it wants to be. Britain's identity crisis. At the heart of the fury is a bigger question. What does it mean to be British, or English, in 2025? The Union Jack is often used as a unifying symbol, but the St. George's flag is purely England's. For some, it's inseparable from football culture, the terraces, the chants, and the World Cup dreams. For others, it's a reminder of colonial history or political groups who waved it as a symbol of exclusion. GMB's discussion cracked open that fault line. Supporters of the flag insisted it was about pride, not politics. Critics warned it risked alienating communities. And ordinary viewers at home, caught between patriotism and progress, ended up muttering the same refrain, "Britain has gone mad." The politicians weigh in. Inevitably, politicians couldn't resist jumping into the row. One MP tweeted, "Flying our national flag should never be controversial. This is our heritage, and it belongs to everyone in England." Meanwhile, a rival MP countered, "Symbols are powerful. If some feel excluded by the St. George's flag, we must listen. Unity matters more than cloth on a pole." The disagreement mirrored the GMB studio. Two sides talking past each other, each convinced the other had lost touch with reality. The viewer's verdict. What made this debate so explosive wasn't the studio clash, it was the public response. Viewers weren't just irritated, they were incandescent. Phone-ins to radio shows raged with callers venting that their country was being dismantled piece by piece. A retired veteran phoned in to one station. "I fought under that flag. Now you're telling me I can't fly it from my garden fence? Madness." Another caller, a second-generation immigrant, said, "I love this country, I cheer for England, but sometimes the flag feels hijacked by the wrong people. We need to reclaim it, not ban it." This split view mirrored Britain's broader divide, between those who feel they're losing traditions and those who feel those same traditions exclude them. Breakfast TV or battlefield. By lunchtime, newspapers had already seized on the story. Headlines blared. Flag fury as GMB sparks morning meltdown. Susanna Reid versus St. George's Cross. Viewers rage. Britain has gone mad. What began as a breakfast TV segment had turned into a national talking point. GMB's producers couldn't have scripted it better if they tried. The flag had become a battlefield. The symbol and the storm. At its core, the St. George's flag is just fabric dyed in two colors. Yet its meaning shifts depending on who holds it. For one person, it's joy and pride. For another, it's exclusion and fear. For GMB, it's ratings gold. The outrage showed how deeply symbols matter in an era where identity feels contested. When people say, "Britain has gone mad," what they really mean is that they feel unsettled, that familiar ground beneath their feet is shifting. Where do we go from here? If Britain is to avoid descending into endless culture wars over flags, statues, and holidays, it may need to rethink how it uses its symbols. Can the St. George's flag be reclaimed as a universal symbol of England, one that belongs equally to a black British footballer, a second-generation immigrant, and a pensioner in Kent? Or has the flag become too politically charged to ever unite? These are the questions that a morning TV spat has forced onto the table. Closing thoughts. The fury over the St. George's flag on Good Morning Britain may pass in a few days, overtaken by the next scandal or celebrity gossip. But the anger it unleashed is real. For many, it feels like every tradition is under siege. For others, it's a chance to ask how those traditions can evolve. One thing is certain, a simple flag has once again reminded Britain of its complicated relationship with itself. And as viewers raged into their tea mugs, one phrase summed up the bewilderment of a nation caught between pride and progress.